Well, hello. So glad you could join me for this video. My name is James Geiger. I'm a medical doctor, a board-certified anesthesiologist. Have been for more than 30 years now doing anesthesiology. I love it. It's a great job. Helped a lot of people. I still intend to keep doing that for a while. A couple of years ago, something very interesting happened in my practice. I heard nurses talking about giving oils to patients in the recovery room to prevent nausea after anesthesia and surgery. And that really caught my attention. I had never heard of such a thing before. Being raised in California, I thought I, was really aware of all these trends and the new things, and apparently not. I had to move to Arizona in order to find that out. And I became a certified aromatherapist, clinically certified. I took a course, a very extensive course, a couple hundred hours worth, and learned 36 hours worth of training on oils, and 36 oils in 200 hours is what I meant to say. It was very extensive. I'm an author. I've written a book on oils and done a lot of teaching about oils to nurses and dietitians and other doctors and families. And I do consultations as an aromatherapist, a clinically certified aromatherapist. And I'm a speaker, and I love to teach about oils, especially the science of aromatherapy, because I'm going to show you how I really thought how important it was when I realized how much it was like anesthesia and the science of anesthesia. So let's look at the next slide, and we'll get to some of the greatness of this story. So I'm sort of just crossing the top stair here now. This is a curry on knives thing. They have one for women and one for men, ages of men. Oils can be used in any age group, from the neonate and perinatal and during early growth in the womb, all the way to end-of-life care, and well in between. Most recently, I've been interested in the topic of Alzheimer's and dementia and the use of oils as well in that category. Very fascinating research coming out in the literature globally in that regard. So it's fascinating to me to see how anesthesia and essential oils mesh and can be integrated. I spend my days with these silly colored gloves on, inducing people with anesthesia and with fancy computers and screens all around me. And it's really very interesting work, and we've helped a lot of people on a regular basis. But I really felt that I started to make a tremendous difference when I started to employ the use of essential oils and aromatherapy in my clinical practice as an anesthesiologist. So you can even put the oils in the mask and have them breathe down, breathing perhaps ginger to help be nauseated, or lavender to help with anxiety. There are many different things that can be utilized in that regard. But some of the basics regarding nutrition, because essential oils basically are rated as food supplements by the FDA. Nutraceuticals, this article, and plant biotechnology shows that there are, essential vitamins, essential amino acids, essential trace elements, things that the body just doesn't make. You have to get them from an external source, food. And then there are these essential oils that are distilled or extracted. It's fascinating the process of how we actually arrive at getting an oil out of whatever part of plant we're referring to, whether it be from the root of the plant all the way out to the floral petals of, say, rose or geranium or even jasmine, ylang-ylang. There's so many great flowers that have awesome fragrances, but the oils have even more special properties. And then, of course, many of the oils need to be diluted before they can be applied. And we'll get into some of the applications of the essential oils as well. So some of the properties and applications of essential oils are very, very interesting. All of your life, you've been getting oils in your food, up to about 30 parts per million in many, many food products as flavoring, fragrance. Many of it's synthetic, though, or parts of oils rather than the whole oil. And that was what makes this topic of aromatherapy so interesting and so challenging in this day and time. Usually a drop of oil, if you're reading the labels, it might say as a supplements fact that it's between 30 or perhaps even 60 milligrams per drop. And that's partially dependent on how big the drop is based on the temperature and the viscosity of the oil. Some oils are very, very clear and very thin. Others are very thick and very dark. And the temperature in the room or the oil makes a big difference even getting it out of the bottle at times. And of course, they're 3 calories per gram. In other words, there are almost no sugar content, 0 glycemic index. In other words, when you're using oils, you don't have to calorie count. And that's a beautiful thing for a lot of people to consider. They're also extremely high in ORAC value and scavenge free radicals. That's one of their major mechanisms. But there are many other mechanisms. And as I read and studied these other mechanisms, I became so fascinated with these oils and what they could do from a literature standpoint, a scientific standpoint, that I just had to delve into it more. And I found this article from 1929 where a man named William Allen anesthetized various groups of people and then had them breathe the essence of essential oils and chemicals and measured some of the changes in their vital signs and their respiratory rate. And he found that breathing the oils and breathing these other chemicals affected the olfactory and trigeminal cranial nerves in the mouth as you're breathing through a mask. And I thought, now that's really fascinating to me, because I use sevoflurane now and oxygen, and these people were, back in 29, were already breathing oils. So I did a research study to try and figure out how oils applied to me in my clinical practice. What would I do? I mean, in anesthesia, there's a big little problem, which is nausea or vomiting after surgery, after anesthesia. And that problem is not really managed that well, even with multimodal care. In other words, many different drugs to try and beat the problem of being sick to your stomach afterwards. So I tried using ginger, and I found that I got much improvement in my high-risk group of patients for general anesthesia. That tipped the tide for me and helped me understand that there is a way to go with this, and there are applications in anesthesia. So in 2012, Ron Hunt did this study where he actually used essential oils of peppermint, spearmint, cardamom, and ginger in the recovery room to treat postoperative nausea. And it was found to be very, very effective. And it was a true randomized trial. Mine was just a study of 92 of my patients, just to get a proof of principle. Does this work or doesn't it? And he actually did a very, very controlled study. Beautiful research. And as you can see, the facial nerve and the trigeminal nerve, when you're breathing in with a mask on your face, you can see how the precipitation of the vapors from the oils actually lands on the end plates of these nerves and conducted into the brainstem. And this is where a nausea center is back here. So you can see how intimately related the vapors from the oils can actually innervate the nervous system. So once I realized that we can use oils, I mean, how safe is it to use these oils? I mean, is it really a good idea? And I found this study from 2013 where they actually had anxious females, and they had them using oils by an inhalation technique, from a diffuser or maybe from gauze, or there are many different ways to have inhalation techniques. And they measured various constituents in their urine to see if they were making awkward metabolites that weren't healthy. And they actually found that the metabolites of the tricarboxylic acid cycle and gut microbial metabolism was actually altered significantly in very positive ways, not in bad ways. So that was very reassuring to me as an anesthesiologist and MD to proceed farther in the use of the oils clinically. Now, one of the other things about oils which is very interesting, that one picture that I showed you of the mouth and the nerves, these cranial nerves 1 and 2 are right at the base of the temporal lobes, and they are where the sinuses are, so that when you're smelling something, you're actually activating this whole limbic system. And this is where the emotional core of a human being is, the limbic system. These various nuclei are very important for recognition of smell. Like your mother's baking an apple pie, you would know it because you'd smell it come up through your nose. The vapors would be changed into a chemical neurotransmitter, a couple of synapses, bam, 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 and your amygdala would go, apple pie in the oven with cinnamon, awesome, can't hardly wait. But emotions also come in very, very handily, and that can be handily managed with oils as well. But it's even more than that, because when you're talking about just getting oils into your brain, that's one thing, but the oils are actually permeating into the very cells of the body through various membranes, through nuclear pores, and proteins and genetic material can pass in and out of all the cells in the body. It's not just a scent or an aroma. Aromatherapy is a kind of a weak name for a very powerful action of plant intelligence. So this study shows a picture of how the genetic material is actually manipulated by oils in a positive way, showing that a virus cannot actually take over a cell and manufacture more virus. The oils inhibit the ability of the virus to translate protein, making more virus. Now, when this study came out, I went, now there you have a scientific study that really shows something very positive, because viral infections can be very dramatic and very debilitating. So kappa beta, and this title, A Reasoning for Seasoning from Spice-Derived Phytochemicals, I just love this title. I think it's awesome. It actually shows that there's a nuclear transcription factor, kappa beta. This is one of many, and it affects many different diseases in many different ways. And this bottom list of all these oils shows many different ways in which that can be modulated in a very positive way to limit the transcription of a compound, which can have negative effects health-wise. This busy chart actually shows kappa beta up here in the corner, but look at all the other things that happen within a cell cycle where oils and chemicals that are in plants can interact. You see, one drop of a plant's oil, when it's been distilled and concentrated, holds many, many different types of chemicals and many, many different chemicals within that, many percentages. So it's a very complex field when you start studying the chemistry of any given plant's oil. And the interactions of all the different chemicals within each drop of oil is only just now beginning to be realized and analyzed. And I'm really grateful for the research that's being done around the world and the ability to find it on PubMed and put it into teaching practices like this so that we can look at it and analyze it and see how the oils actually now work on the human DNA in such a way as to make good genes be expressed, bad genes be suppressed. Biomarkers, the same thing. Good biomarkers that you need to promote health, all are magnified and expressed more so. Bad biomarkers suppressed and inhibited so that they cannot do their damage to you. I love this slide because it really shows how oils interact within the membranes in our body of our cells. And this is a signaling pathway. And the oils can just fit right into these membranes and really have a very strong and interactive effect from through the membrane of the cell and into the nucleus. So that's our little lesson on science of aromatherapy today and somewhat of my story. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you.